In this video, I'm going to give you guys 5 players that we shouldn't be panicking about. Now, you can call this also a buy low video, right? These are dudes that either if you have them, don't panic, don't sell them, just keep them on your roster. There should be better days. Or if these are dudes that are on a roster of one of those 0-4 league mates who's really desperate and is pissed off and has vocalized that he hates these guys, these are buy low candidates. So if you guys like this video, if you get some value from it, I would super appreciate a like, a sub. Let me know what you guys think in the comments if there's anybody else that you think are good buy low candidates. Without wasting any more time, boys, let's hop into the first player. And it's Breece Hall, bro. Breece Hall is pretty much on everybody's buy low list or don't panic list, whatever you want to call it. And for good reason, right? I mean, Breece Hall was drafted as like a top 3 running back. When CMC kind of goes down, the expectation from a lot of people is that Breece Hall would be the number 1 running back. Like he was on a good offense with a good quarterback. I mean, we thought, and a lot of good weapons, but he'd be the focal point. So in week 1 and week 2, he kind of shows us what's possible, bro. I mean, 6 targets in week 1, 16 for 54 on the ground with a touchdown, and then he gets 5 receptions for 39. In week 2, 14 for 62, no touchdowns on the ground, but gets 8 targets, 7 receptions for 52 and a touchdown. So he pops off, right? In week 3, has also a really good week, 16 for 54 and a touchdown, and 5 for 4 for 29 yards. So very involved, very, very, very much the focal point of the offense. Like we do see Braylon Allen start to take a little bit of work, especially in week 3. And then in week 4, he takes a lot of work and looks really good. Breece Hall really struggles, goes 10 for 4, has himself a nice DeAndre Swift style game. But he still gets those 5 targets, 2 for 14, doesn't really find a lot of space. It seems like when he's on the field, most of the defense we're really focusing on stopping him. I think Breece Hall even said it himself in a post-game interview that like it seems like the defenses were really trying to stop me, and I don't know, call it an excuse, but I do think there's some merit to that. So as I mentioned, he's still the focal point of the offense. There is a quote from Robert Saleh after the game where he said, Breece Hall was batting 1,000 in goal line situations before the Broncos game, and that he views that performance as an outlier. Hall will still have a role in short yardage situations. So basically, Robert Saleh wanted to quell any concerns that Breece Hall's going to lose goal line work and said that nope, Breece Hall's been really good at that. He's still going to get goal line work. He's still going to get short yardage stuff. He's obviously going to continue getting these crazy, targets and reception numbers. I think Breece Hall has the potential to have like an Alvin Kamara plus rushing upside type season, right? Like Alvin Kamara was always known as like, a receiving back for the longest time. Then Alvin Kamara started getting in between the tackles, short yardage stuff. And look what he has become, right? He's become kind of this like, top 5 running back easily. So I think what you want to do is you want to look at, let's say you don't have Breece Hall, right? You want to look for managers who are like 1-3, 0-4, like I mentioned. Dudes that are potentially worried about Braylon Allen's role, worried that he's going to continue taking work from Breece Hall. Keep in mind, man, a lot of people on Twitter are talking about how Braylon Allen is better than Breece Hall in every way, from rushing, receiving. Like, there's a lot of hype, dude. There's a lot of cope and hype going on about Breece Hall. And I think it's misplaced. I think it's wrong. I think Breece Hall is definitely going to be fine rest of the season. I would say if you have those guys in your league, though, who are worried and are like, down terrific, take advantage, bro. Strike them down. Strike down those vulnerable league mates and friends that you have. Have no mercy. Send them absolutely ridiculous 2-for-1 trades that you never know, bro. Like a Jameson Williams plus, a Brian Robinson for Breece Hall. And you can make the argument like, why would you give up Brian Robinson right now? He's looking real good, but Brian Robinson doesn't have the same upside that Breece Hall has. And then Jameson Williams, you can let go of a guy like that, knowing the type of upside, weak winning potential Breece Hall brings. You got, I can already tell you guys are going to roast me in the comments for that, but something like that. Maybe not Jameson Williams, but something in that realm. I still think he's going to be top 5 rest of the season. Pretty much every website has him as a top 5 running back rest of the season. So I do think Braylon Allen's going to continue getting a lot of work, and he's going to continue, stealing goal line work and getting touchdowns. He's going to frustrate Breece Hall owners sometimes. Maybe he's going to take away that like crazy ceiling that Breece Hall once had. But I think Braylon Allen might be a net positive for Breece in the long run because he is going to maybe keep him healthy, right? Because I think the best ability is availability. So that does it for Breece Hall. The next 2 guys, I packaged them together, is Jaylen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. we'll call it the Miami pass catchers in general. I would even lump Devon Achane into this, but focusing on these two guys, I want to look at their game logs. So Jaylen Waddle in week 1 goes 5 for 109. We don't love the involvement. We don't love the lack of targets the entire season. Now, I'm willing to throw weeks 2 through 4 out, but weeks 2, to be honest, also wasn't really looking very good for Jaylen Waddle and Tyreek up until the Tua injury. They were both struggling. Tua gets injured, kind of saving, I wouldn't say saving them, but it kind of like saves them from criticism, right? Like saves them from us being like, damn, should we panic about these two guys? And yeah, I think we shouldn't be panicking. So Tua should be returning week 8. That's been the reports that I've seen the last week. With that in mind, so that's unfortunately they're going to miss 2 games plus the bye week. So basically 3 weeks without these guys really being able to perform very well, in my opinion. Now, you never know against New England. Anything's possible. Any of these guys could pop off. Someone should pop off. Like, holy shit, dude. Mike McDaniel has to figure out how to let this offense, like, have some production, right? This is absolutely ridiculous how bad they've been. Like, every other team, when they put in a backup, somebody can still eat, right? There's still somebody that does something, every game. And yeah, they got to figure it out, man. But basically, you can get Waddle and Tyreek for probably the lowest price you'll ever be able to get them. At the moment, you can get Jaylen Waddle for like a wide receiver 4, right? You can trade like, I don't know, you can trade like Xavier Legette and get like a Jaylen Waddle. Look, we can debate whether that you would actually make that trade, whether you'd want to have Jaylen Waddle, but with the fact that Tua does come back in week 8, with the fact that kind of this rough beginning schedule is kind of over. So, like for example, Buffalo, super difficult matchup for them. Seattle, probably the best secondary in the NFL, and then Tennessee. We all saw that game. It was a silo game. It was just horrific. The run game couldn't do anything. They were in like second, third, and long pretty much every drive. And at that point, you're not expecting much. So here's the situations in which I would trade for them. So if you are 3-1 or 4-0, or even 2-2 with a really strong roster, and you can like trade a bench piece, like somebody with some upside, and get either of these guys, I would go for it, especially Jaylen Waddle. Jaylen Waddle right now is his value is in the sewers, dude. It's in the gutters right now. So Jaylen Waddle is somebody that I would be targeting for sure. You don't need to pay much. And Tyreek Hill's a little bit more difficult. He's somebody that you still have to kind of pay up for. I mean, he was the consensus wide receiver 1 going into the season. So even with his drop off in value, he's still going at like a round 2, round 3 type value, right? So I just put a couple of names here that I think like I had to debate with myself. I had to really think like, damn, who would I rather have rest of the season? Drake London or Tyreek Hill or Chris Olave and Tyreek Hill? Like, I think I might rather have Tyreek Hill. Like, yeah, you might suffer the next 3 weeks, but I do think from weeks 8 on, Tyreek Hill will outscore both of those guys pretty easily, in my opinion. So it's kind of like short-term loss for long-term gain. And yeah, I'm not saying you do a 1-for-1 trade, but you package them, right? So you tier up at Tyreek and then you tier down at a running back or something like that. So yeah, man, if the price is right, I would do it, especially if the owner is down horrific. Send out some trades, see if Jaylen Waddle, somebody that I'd really try to be targeting right now. His value is very enticing, especially considering it looks like Tua will be back in week 8. Now, those two Jaylen Waddle owners might not want to give up Jaylen Waddle now, knowing Tua will be back. So his value has probably increased just a tad bit. So that does it for those two guys. Josh Jacobs is the next one. So Josh Jacobs, he's pretty much also on everybody's buy low list, but for good reason. Again, so weeks 1 and 2 looks really good. 16 for 84, 5 yards per carry. Gets a couple receptions, nothing too crazy. Week 2 gets this massive workload, 32 carries for 151. That was against the Colts. That game kind of skewed everyone into thinking the Colts' run defense is absolutely horrific and atrocious for good reason. And then weeks 3 and 4 really struggles. Against Tennessee, it's kind of understandable. They have one of the better run defenses. Only goes 14 for 43. That was a Malik Willis game. Keep that in mind. Week 4, Jordan Love returns. He goes 9 for 51, 6 targets, 4 receptions for 27 in a very negative game script against the Vikings. So you can kind of brush that one off, say, yo, they were in negative game script, difficult defense, but he still produces pretty well, right? Like 5.67 yards per carry in that game. Not horrible, right? So I do think he's a workhorse running back. He's on a top offense, And individually, he's playing really well. His metrics are really, like, across the board, very good. He's getting the receiving work, he's getting the short yard stuff. Now, we do have to talk about Emmanuel Wilson. Emmanuel Wilson also looks pretty good, man, and actually kind of outplayed Josh Jacobs in week 3 against Tennessee. So, Josh Jacobs, a lot, like many running backs in the league, have trouble finding running space against Tennessee. Emmanuel Wilson didn't. He was able to do some stuff. Now, I don't know why that happens sometimes when the starting running back struggles against really stout run defense, and then they bring in the backup, and suddenly he's gashing them. Like, maybe if there are any football heads here that are watching that can explain that to me, why that happens sometimes. Is it because the defense is like, that running back isn't really a focus of the defense, and then they load up on the wide receivers? Like, I'd really love to know why that happens, but I don't know if he's going to really threaten Josh Jacobs' 3-down workhorse role. I do think moving forward, better days are ahead. They play, the Rams, Arizona, Houston, Jacksonville. Like, there's no Minnesota on the docket for them, right? There's no team that's like, whoa, this is going to be a tough one. They're going to be, getting dominated defensively. So I think moving forward, we can be pretty happy with Josh Jacobs. We buy him low, obviously. You can buy. He's also someone that his value has really plummeted. I consider him to be like a top 10 running back moving forward, but you only have to pay like top, 17, top 18 running back prices. So that's somebody who I'd definitely be going after. The next dude on my list, and he's the last player on this list, is going to be Drake London. I mentioned him a little bit earlier. There's a lot to love about Drake London, so we don't have to talk too much about his game logs. Pretty much an ascending game log here. You see only 3 targets in week 1. Panic sets in. Kirk looks bad. Can't move. Then goes 6 for 54. Gets into the end zone. Kind of salvages his day with that late touchdown. Week 3, 6 for 67. Also a late touchdown. I might be mixing those up. I don't know. I don't know if you got a late touchdown in both games or just one of them. But in any case, week 4 really pops off. 12 targets, 6 for 64, but unfortunately doesn't get a touchdown. But he pops off in terms of volume and a couple other metrics. So check this out. First read target rate by week. So this is, for anybody who doesn't know, pretty self-explanatory. It's on dropbacks, on quarterback dropbacks when they're actually going to pass the ball. How many times, or what's the percent of the time that he is the first read? He's the guy that the quarterback will look at first, and then progress through the other wide receivers. And you see also in a sense. So week 1 only 12% fucking concern. Week 2, 47. Week 3, 41. And then week 4, 50%. So 50% of dropbacks, he was the first read. That's what we want in a alpha wide receiver. Now pair that with this next statistic, which is Drake London's target shares this season. So also an ascending chart, dude. So 12%, 24%, 31, 34. So he's the first read. And naturally, because his first read percentage is increasing, his target share should increase, right? It's not always a one-to-one, or it's not always a perfect, synergy between those two stats, but it tends to be the case. If you're the first read more often, usually you're going to get the ball first, especially if the quarterback's under duress or under pressure. First read targets usually get those targets, and that's why we see his target share increasing. I wanted to show you guys this tweet by Josh Norris, really good one. He basically shows the 12 of Drake London's 16 slot targets have been in the last 2 games, meaning they're using him in the slot more. Zach Robinson is using him in motion, condensed splits, creating favorable leverage spots. So let's have a look at some of these plays. Hopefully it's not too loud. I'll just mute it. Let's go back so we can comment on it. So we see Drake London moving now before the snap. You love that, dude. He goes deep, takes a shot. Unfortunately, ball gets batted down. That would have been a nice 40 or 35-yard gain or something. Drake London again. Where is he? I lost him. I wasn't paying attention. Horrible. There he is, number 5. Comes back. Cuts in. Incredible catch. He actually makes that catch. Here he is again in the slot. A nice little outside curl. Unfortunately, doesn't catch it, but where is he? Here's Drake London again in the slot. Nice intermediate route in between the soft part of the zone. You love it. Where's Drake London? Find him. A little out, intermediate route, curling route. Unfortunately, poorly thrown. Can't get to it. Here he is again in pre-snap motion coming down the line of scrimmage. Nice little outside-inside move. Unfortunately, doesn't create a lot of separation on that one. We'd like to see a little more separation, but still makes the catch. Nice little in and then out route. Nothing too crazy. Nice little 4-yard gain. That's 1.5 PPR. Here he is, a little mini motion. in trips, comes with a nice curl route, almost gets that picked off. That's one where you don't want to see Kirk really try to fit that in, but here is again, intermediate out route, catches it, toe tap, out of bounds. Love it, dude. You love his route tree. It looks so much better than your last year's route tree. And I think in general, Kirk's looking good. He's looking a little bit more mobile than week one. London now has Darnell Mooney to take away a lot of deep coverage stuff. So in the past, they'd really just run Drake London as like the X receiver, just run these go routes. And they'd be like, let's try to have him win these one-on-ones, right? Like these jump balls, essentially. And that's what Drake London was kind of known for back in college for USC. But it's nice to see that his route tree is more diverse now. They're doing a lot of pre-snap motion, a lot more intermediate routes where Darnell Mooney can take the cover safeties from the top. Drake London can operate underneath him. You love that. So I would say buy him low, stay put if you have him. And also, like, if you're not happy with Atlanta and you don't want to stay with a guy like Drake London, you don't think he has like the ceiling to be like a top 5 wide receiver, I would wait for him to have like a big game potentially this week and then see if you can flip him. So I wouldn't panic about any of these guys on this list. I think you should stay put, if not buy them low. Whatever you want to call it, dude. I could have named this video many different things. In any case, I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, as I mentioned at the beginning, if you did find value from it, I would super appreciate a like. A subscribe would be the best. And I'll catch you guys in the next video.